Dr. G, so let's talk about that great week. Let's talk about the address, your reaction to it, where we stand in the shutdown, all that. Give me your 30,000 foot.
Yeah, I know a lot of Breitbart listeners were probably expecting or hoping that he would declare a national emergency. He still has that in his back pocket, even if he didn't do that during the address. I just think it was absolutely stunning. The comparison between the president's address and then the American Gothic response from the Democrats, it could not have been better in terms of illustrating who they are, how they don't care, their arrogance, their lack of connection to the American people. And then yesterday at the wall, you are the man at Breitbart. You understand the importance of visuals, strategic communications. It's not just about charisma. It's about connecting with visuals. And when the president sits down on his right with Secretary Nielsen, on his left with the brother of the murdered Corporal Singh, and in front of them a 50 caliber semi-automatic rifle, a pile of cash and drugs taken from the cartels. That's worth. I mean, that's more than 100 campaign rallies wrapped up. He is winning this. The fact that Nancy yesterday started saying, "Oh, we'll give you some money for infrastructure at the ports of entry," they are feeling the heat big time, and they may in fact crumble.
Yeah, and I think that your synopsis is pretty good here, and I think this is where the president is picking up some ground. And I think I'll probably surprise you, Dr. G, and I think that the decision not to call a national emergency was the correct decision. I think he had enough attention. I think people got to take a look at the entirety of the speech instead of focusing on one announcement. He could do an announcement any time. This was for a sober, longer-form discussion about an incredibly complex geopolitical issue. I think he introduced 99%, maybe that's a bit of exaggeration. Let's say 95% of the topics I would have introduced if I'd written the speech myself. So I'm pretty thrilled with the content. And I think that it would have looked like a cheap stunt if he declared an emergency. I know a lot of callers want that, and we're having a discussion, a debate on that. And I still think that could be the right move down the road. But I thought he handled it pretty much perfectly.
Well, you do surprise me. You do surprise me, but, I'm in full concurrence. And at the end of the day, I hope the Democrats aren't listening to your show, but you never know. The national emergency choice, which he is fully authorized to do, if you look at the levels of drug deaths and everything else that is involved with the porous southern border, that is perhaps the ultimate solution, because it removes the culpability of the Democrats, because Nancy and Chuck are going to be able to say, well, we couldn't do anything about it because he has that power. So the options are all there. Of course, it'll go to the Ninth Circus Court, but just like the travel ban, the president will fight it all the way to the Supreme Court and win. But at the end of the day, whether it's Jim Acosta saying, actually proving for us on live TV that walls work, or whether it's American Gothic, this has been an incredible week for the president.
Yeah, it's been an incredible week. I think so. Yeah, the American Gothic meme was just so delicious. And so many of us thought of it at Breitbart right away. And then it just started instantly showing up on Twitter. This is why Twitter is to crack down on people on the right, because it is so powerful when you use ridicule. The optics are just so terrible. Their arguments were so terrible. And I do think that adds it's an added victory for the president, who I think gave a great speech, but it was just made even better by the weakness and the lameness of the Democratic retort. Again, Dr. Sebastian Gorka with me, the new show, America First, with Dr. Sebastian Gorka on the Salem stations. Dr. G, let's talk a little bit about the breaking news this morning that U.S. officials are apparently beginning to draw down troops in Syria. The president required some conditions that he'd get a commitment from Erdogan and Turkey that they would not attack the Kurds, who have largely been America's partners and allies in our war against ISIS in Syria and elsewhere. And this is something that Ambassador Bolton did kind of try to shoehorn that condition into a troop drawdown. I think by and large, the MAGA foreign policy is trying to get as many troops home as possible, but not necessarily if that means that Russia and Iran and Turkey are going to get a more geopolitical strength. This is a tricky one with Syria. What is your assessment of where we are, and what do you think is the right move?
Look, I was in touch with Mike Pompeo last night. He's doing an incredible job in the region. I would recommend all your listeners after the show to go and listen to the speech that he gave in Cairo. He blasted the so-called legacy of the Obama administration, and at the same time made it very clear that even if, and we're not going to give away the timetable, this is not the Obama administration, this isn't the Clinton administration, we don't give away the game plans, we don't have deadlines, but even when we remove all of our conventional forces, the idea that we're just going to let everything fall into a dancing inferno without our further commitment, we have other means to do what needs to be done. And he was very clear, not one Iranian boot will be left in Syria. Since from day one in the White House, whether it was me, whether it was under H.R. McMaster, or whether it was at any time in the last 2 years, everybody, including the president, understands that this is about a regional threat. This is about Iran, and we're not going to allow our actions to be exploited to the detriment of American interests by the Russians or by the Iranians. So, Mike read them the riot act. It was beautiful, the way he dismantled piece by piece what Obama had done in the region. So have faith. He's not an interventionist. He'll never go neocon on you. Neither is he a mindless isolationist. He's going to do what's good for America.
Dr. G, I think this is it's so great to hear you sum this up, and I hate to waste time with you because I know our time's precious, but I do have a clip of the Secretary of State. I think it is important we play this, and I'd love to get your reaction. Please. 12A, Mr. Paul.
Our eagerness to address only Muslims and not nations ignored the rich diversity of the Middle East and frayed old bonds. It undermined the concept of the nation state, the building block of international stability. And our desire for peace at any cost led us to strike a deal with Iran, our common enemy. So today, what did we learn from all of this? We learned that when America retreats, chaos often follows. When we neglect our friends, resentment builds. And when we partner with our enemies, they advance. The good news is this. The age of self-inflicted American shame is over, and so are the policies that produce so much needless suffering. Now comes the real new beginning.
Yeah, Dr. G, I know you're crunched because you're giving a big lecture today. Quick reaction. I like the part he says we addressed only Muslims and not nations, and talking about America's era of shame, self-inflicted shame is over. I mean, just such tough talk from such a disciplined intellectual guy is so refreshing. But what is the upside of it? What do you think?
When was the last time a Secretary of State anywhere with any audience talked about the importance of the nation state and then just re-injected the essence of why Trump is president in terms of common sense? I mean, just that half line you played there, the idea that helping your enemies is not a good idea.
Yes.
I mean, this is absolutely priceless. Listen, Alex, I'm about to give a lecture at National.
Yeah, I know you got to run, Dr. G. 3 to 6 p.m.
But we're going to have you on my show next week, right?
Oh, good. Can't wait to do it. 3 to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday on the Salem stations. That's Eastern Time. America First with Dr. Gorka. And you can get his books. Why We Fight is the latest. Super smart book. Too, Dr. G, always appreciate the time. Talk to you next week. It sounds like I'll talk to you twice.
God bless. Thank you, Alex.